3 days after my husband died, a woman knocked on my door. She was standing in the rain. I had never seen her before. She looked straight into my eyes and asked, "Did Michael ever tell you about the blue house?" I froze because Michael and I had been married for 31 years. I thought I knew every secret he had, but I had never heard of a blue house. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "Your husband promised a little girl he would come back." And that was when I realized I hadn't known my husband nearly as well as I thought. My name is Margaret. I'm 58 years old. Michael and I met when I was 25. We fell in love, got married, bought a house, raised 2 children, and built what I thought was an ordinary, happy life. We argued about money. We argued about holidays. We even argued about whose turn it was to make coffee. But we always came back to each other. Michael was dependable, kind, predictable. At least, that's what I believed. Michael died suddenly. There was no goodbye, no final conversation. He went to work one Monday morning and never came home. A heart attack. That's all the doctors could tell me. At the funeral, everyone said the same thing. He loved you. You were everything to him. You were lucky to have each other. I believed them for 2 days. Then Sarah appeared. It was around 4 in the afternoon. 3 slow knocks. I opened the door. The woman standing outside looked exhausted. "Margaret? Yes? My name is Sarah." She paused. I knew Michael. My stomach tightened. "How?" She didn't answer. Instead, she asked again, "Did he ever tell you about the blue house?" "What blue house?" Sarah looked down. Then she whispered, "I'm sorry." She turned around. "Wait." She stopped. "Who are you?" Sarah looked back at me. "Someone who should have come here a long time ago." Then she walked away. I watched her disappear down the street, and for the first time since Michael's death, I felt something stronger than grief. I felt fear. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about one question. What was the blue house? Then I remembered something. Michael had always kept a small metal box in his office. I had seen it hundreds of times. Whenever I asked about it, he always said, "Just old work papers." But now he was gone, and the box suddenly seemed very important. I searched his desk. Nothing. Then I found something taped underneath a drawer. A tiny key. My hands started shaking. I opened the box. Inside were photographs. Dozens of them. And almost every photograph showed the same place. A small blue house. Then I saw Michael. He was standing outside the house, but he wasn't alone. Beside him was a little girl, 6, maybe 7 years old. I turned the photograph over. There were only 8 words. "She still thinks you're coming back." I couldn't breathe. Who was that girl? And why had my husband never told me about her? The next morning, I called Sarah. She answered immediately. "I knew you'd call." "Who is the girl?" Silence. Then Sarah said, "You need to come to the blue house." She gave me an address. It was less than an hour away. I almost didn't go, but something inside me told me I had to. The house was smaller than I expected. Blue paint, white windows, an old wooden porch. Sarah was waiting outside. When she saw me, she didn't smile. She simply said, "You deserve to know the truth." I looked at the house. "Who is the girl?" Sarah took a breath. "Her name was Anna." "Was?" Sarah nodded. "She died when she was 12. I felt cold. "How?" Sarah looked at me, then said 4 words I'll never forget. "Michael was there." Inside the house, I saw photographs everywhere. Anna at the beach, Anna riding a bicycle, Anna holding birthday cake, and Michael, always Michael, not like a stranger, like a father. I turned to Sarah. Who was she? Sarah finally said it. She was Michael's daughter. I stared at her. My husband had a daughter? Yes. Why didn't I know? Sarah looked away. Because Michael was afraid. Afraid of what? That you'd leave him. I almost laughed. After 31 years? He knew me better than that. Sarah looked directly into my eyes. You still don't understand. She opened a drawer and took out a folder. Anna wasn't the only thing Michael kept from you. Inside the folder were letters. Some were written by Michael. Others were from a woman named Laura, Michael's first wife. I knew about Laura. I knew she had died years before I met him. But I didn't know she had left behind a daughter, Anna. After Laura died, Michael struggled to raise Anna alone. He worked constantly. Money became a problem. Anna eventually went to live with her grandmother. And then the accident happened. Anna was 12. She was crossing the road outside the blue house. A car hit her. Michael was there, but the truth was much darker than I imagined. Sarah handed me an envelope. My name was written on it, Michael's handwriting. I opened it. The first sentence made my hands go numb. Margaret, if Sarah ever gives you this, it means I didn't have the courage to tell you myself. I kept reading. I didn't hide Anna because I was ashamed of her. I hid her because I was ashamed of myself. Then came the sentence that changed everything. There is something you don't know about the night Anna died. I looked at Sarah. What happened? She whispered. Keep reading. Michael wrote that Anna wasn't alone that night. There was another person in the car, a 17-year-old boy. His name was David, Michael's younger brother, and David was driving. But when the police arrived, Michael said he had been driving. He took the blame. He went to court. He lost his license. He paid the fine, and he carried the secret for the rest of his life. But why? Why would a father take the blame for the person responsible for his daughter's death? Then I read the next part, and everything changed again. Anna knew David had been driving. She had seen him, and before she died, she told Michael something. She asked him not to let them destroy David's life. Michael promised. He protected his brother, but he also destroyed something inside himself. For 31 years, he believed he deserved the guilt. I looked at Sarah. Where is David now? She answered, 3 towns away. That night, I couldn't sleep. The next morning, I went looking for him. David was 62. He owned a small repair shop. When he saw me, his face changed. He already knew why I was there. Michael is dead, he said. I nodded. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then he whispered, he never told you. No, he should have. Yes. David looked down. I asked him to tell you. When? 20 years ago. What stopped him? David swallowed. I did. 20 years earlier, David had gone to Michael's house. He wanted to confess. He wanted to tell me everything. But Michael refused. David asked, what about Margaret? Michael had answered, she deserves a husband who isn't carrying a prison sentence in his heart. David looked at me. I thought he meant the past. I looked at him. He meant me. And suddenly I understood. Michael wasn't only afraid of telling me the truth. He was afraid that the truth would change the way I looked at him. After 31 years, he was still afraid of losing me. That evening, I returned home and sat in Michael's office. I wasn't angry anymore. I was heartbroken. Then I noticed something. The metal box wasn't empty. There was one final photograph underneath it. It showed Michael, Anna, and David. All 3 were smiling. I turned it over. There was a sentence written on the back. One day we'll tell Margaret everything. Underneath it were 2 words. Maybe tomorrow. I stared at those words. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow I'll tell her. Maybe tomorrow she'll understand. Maybe tomorrow I'll finally stop being afraid. But tomorrow never came. A week later, I returned to the blue house. I walked into Anna's old bedroom. Her books were still there, her drawings, a small music box. Then I noticed a drawer beside her bed. Inside was a letter. It was written by Anna, only days before the accident. I opened it. The words were simple. She was only 12, but they broke my heart. She wrote to her father, "I know you think you have to fix everything. You don't. You just have to come home. That's all I want." I couldn't stop crying because suddenly I understood Michael. He had spent his entire life trying to fix something that couldn't be fixed, and the person he thought he had failed had already forgiven him. He just never forgave himself. 3 months after Michael died, I sold our house. I kept his photographs, his letters, his watch, and one promise. Every September 17th, I return to the blue house. I leave flowers outside, not for Michael, for Anna. Sometimes David comes too. One year, he finally asked me, "Do you hate me?" I looked at him. "I did." He nodded. "And now?" I looked toward the blue house. "Now I just wish all of you had told the truth sooner." David cried. So did I. It's been 5 years since Michael died. I still miss him. Sometimes I'm still angry. I still wish he had trusted me enough to tell me everything. But I've learned something. A person can love you deeply and still make terrible choices. Love doesn't make people perfect. Sometimes it makes people afraid. Sometimes people hide the truth because they think they're protecting someone. But sometimes they're really protecting themselves. Michael spent 31 years hiding a secret, and I spent 31 years believing I knew him completely. I didn't.